Happy Friday and happy Q&A Friday. That's what we do here every single Friday. It's wide open for your voiceover questions. And welcome to the Voiceover Huddle. We do it every weekday morning. Well, morning for me. And just try to give you a little bit of a boost in your career, in your voiceover career. Give you a little tip, trick, just to kind of help you out. And my name is Mike Hathcote. And I'm coming to you live from Phoenix, Arizona. Gilbert, Arizona, to be exact. I've been a professional voiceover talent for almost 3 decades, and I've also written a new book called The Voiceover Blueprint. This is available both in, paperback, and then we've got a special running in the link below where you can get the audiobook and the digital download and 4 free gifts for less than $10. So feel free to check that out. Also, drop your questions into the chat, and I'll answer those here shortly, as well as do some shout outs. And there you go. All right, before we get into some questions, while we're waiting on the questions to come in, today is the last day to pick up the replay for Amy Weiss's pay to play class that she did on Tuesday. We've had quite a few people actually sign up after the fact for the replay because this content is literally it's a game changer. I hate to use that word because or that phrase because it's so overused, but it really is. I inhaled that class and I've already watched it a couple more times, and I've gone in and tweaked out all my pay to play stuff because, as you've heard me talk about before, I was not a fan of pay to play for the last few years. And so her class was a big eye opener because there was a lot of stuff that's changed since I was last on there, and I'm looking forward to it. Also, let's not forget the rock t-shirt today. Wings. Paul McCartney's band after the Beatles. Wings. Good stuff. One of my faves. All right, let's see what kind of questions we got today. By the way, I've already been at it this morning. I had a situation where Citibank, who I'm the voice for their credit card program, they had sent me some additional lines a couple of days ago, and it never hit my inbox for some reason. And yeah, so I had to do that real fast this morning before I jumped on here. So I've already been at it. All right, let's see who's hollering in today. There's Mark from Montreal. Ding, ding, ding. First one in. Good morning, David from Hamilton, Ontario. 2 Canadians in the house already. There's Terry from Fallston, Maryland. His question is, how do you define your unique voice and style? Well, here's what I would do, and this is something that I have done. If you're on a platform or you're on a agency list or something like that, and they ask you to put a description of your voice, and this happens every now and then. Well, they'll ask you to do that. Sometimes you can even do this on your website. What I would do is I would ask some peers to give you those adjectives to describe your voice. You know, warm, soothing, smart. There's so many different things you can choose from, but reach out to some trusted colleagues and just say, "Hey, can you describe my voice for me?" And just pick and choose some of those and use those as your when you're trying to describe, on your website or wherever, what kind of voice you have. There's Corey from Whitehall, Wisconsin. And good morning, Edward from Florida. I think it's probably noon there, though. So good afternoon, Edward from Florida. There's Sarah from Kentucky. There's Boomer McBoom from San Emilio Mountains. See, I'm getting better at it. There's JJ says, have my coffee and the voiceover blueprint huddle. Life is good. Thank you, Jolie. That's nice. There's Jason from Kearney, Nebraska. Kirk from Greenville, South Carolina. Phil from Tokyo. Doug from Greensboro, North Carolina. We've got a Greensboro, North Carolina. Oh, that's Borough. Sorry, Greenville and Greensboro. Sorry about that. There's Callie from Pasco, Washington. Ali from Pakistan. What's the best way to get into animation voice acting? I would actually get with someone with a coach who specializes in that field. One that comes to mind is a very good friend of the Blueprint. His name is Dave Fenoy, Finnoy. Dave Fenoy. If you don't recognize his face, you'll definitely recognize his voice. He has been in some of the biggest animated and video game franchises out there, and he's done some classes with us. He's a friend, and so reach out to Dave Fenoy, and he can point you in the right direction. Of course, you're gonna need a character demo, an animation demo, and he also specializes in that. So reach out to Dave. He's great. Bob from from Wadsworth, Ohio. Are these things working? There's Andrew from Latvia. There's John in ATL. Bob says, "Great class on P2P," right? It was crazy. It was like my third eye opened. I was like, "What?" And so, yeah, I'm gonna definitely add that to my revenue wheel because 'cause I'm not gonna leave any money on the table. And now that I know the ins and outs of how to do stuff and how to not do stuff on pay to plays, game changer. That's all I can say. Kirk says, "What's your opinion of buying the after show replay of the voiceover conference in Atlanta that just wrapped up? Worthwhile? Just curious." Yeah, I think it would be worth it because they filmed every single, obviously the keynote, and then I'm pretty sure they filmed all the X sessions, which are all the little breakout classes. So yeah, you could probably, um, you know, it's not the same as being there, obviously, but you could still absorb and retain all the content, all the teaching, all the classes that they did. So I think it would be worth it. Yeah. There's Disc Clint from Chandler right down the road. By the way, Clint, I just replied to your email. Sorry that took so long. It went to spam. So apologies for that, but happy to jump on the call and chat with you a little bit. Bryce says, "Good morning, everyone from San Antonio." His question is, what do you say to a client who asks about past experience when you're just starting out and have none? Okay, good question. And this kind of goes along with what you would put like on a website if you don't have a lot of, experience and stuff. And how do you kind of fill out that part of your website? Now, if they come right out and ask you about your past experience, which is rare. In fact, I don't think anyone has ever come out and asked, what kind of experience do you have? But if they do, then just be honest. Don't lie. Don't, just say I'm newer to the voiceover industry, but as long as you've got good quality demos, that's all that matters because that's your current skill set, right? I don't care if you're new, if you've got the skills to pay the bills and you've got a good demo that showcases that, that should speak for itself. You could have just started yesterday, but if you still got the skills, now just make sure you have the skills and you didn't go to one of these demo mills who just kind of tells you to repeat after me to get you a demo. You got to be able to back up the skills that are on your demo. Okay. So that means that, I mean, literally could bring anyone off the street right now and say, repeat after me, say it like this, say it like this, say it like this, and we could get a good demo put together. But does that mean that that person would be able to replicate that same performance on their own? Probably not. So make sure that your demo showcases your current skill set and that you can actually replicate that skill set on your own based on the quality of that demo, because your demo is everything. Now, if if they don't come right out and ask and you're still looking for a way to kind of fill out your website and kind of, that kind of thing, then you can just talk about things like, your business philosophy, your quick turnaround time, your attention to detail, your top-notch equipment, all that kind of stuff. You can still kind of pad your info there by covering that. So you don't have to go into any kind of big resume. if you don't have one. So hopefully that makes sense. Dale says customer service is hugely important as well as the quality of the product we provide. Be personable and work to make the process as seamless as possible. This leads to repeat clients and referrals. That's right. That's absolutely right. Under promise and over deliver. We talked about that, I don't know, several weeks ago, right? Kathleen from Wyoming. Good morning to you. And Mr. Joseph Nichols from Miami. Good morning. Afternoon. See, it's still afternoon there, or already afternoon there. There's Stephen from Atlanta. It's Rick from St. Paul. Fred says, Fenoy. Yeah, Dave's great. Fennoy. Dave Fenoy. He's a great character and video game guy. Rich says, Mike, nice shirt. Band on the Run is one of the best songs of all time. I quite agree with you. Wayne says, hey, there's Fred. Hello. Yeah, Fred doesn't join us too often, but he's here today. Good morning, Fred. Jim says, good morning from Memphis. Do you have some techniques for recognizing mouth noise in the spectral analyzer? Yeah, there's a way to adjust how that stuff is viewed, and I wish I could share my screen, but, if you're in well, at least if you're on Adobe Audition, the spectral view has different frequency imagery, and you can go in and adjust how much or how little or how vibrant that is. And so what I would do is find a file where you do have some mouth noise and go in and adjust that spectral view image to be more or less vivid. I don't know the technical, this is where I wish Alex was on here. He could let us know, but you can adjust that so that you can see more or less of those anomalies. And like I said yesterday, the spectral view for me is a necessity when I'm editing. It allows those pops and clicks and breaths and things like that to just smack me in the face. So I never have to search for them. So if yours isn't doing that, maybe just adjust that intensity and you'll be able to see it maybe a little more clearly if you do that. Police Commander Z3, happy Friday, Mike from Atlanta. There's Tracy. Good morning from Rochester, Minnesota. Is there a list of coaches on the internet that show their genre? I don't think so. But just use the big robot in the sky and just type in, Google something like, character voiceover coach or something like that. I mean, just you'll get a list of them in whatever genre you're looking for. Callie says, yes, Dave Fenoy. I've done a couple of workshops with him. He is top notch. Yeah, he's the man. And I'll bet you've seen him too. He's he's pretty recognizable. He's got these really long gray dreadlocks, and I think he's now got a really big bushy beard now too, but he used to not. But anyway, long dreadlocks, and he's gotten like lifetime achievement awards. He's been in this game since like the 80s. So yeah, he's the man. Jim says, what does leaving money on the table mean? It means that if there's money to be had for your taking, go get that money. I mean, I'd love to say that we're, all in this for the fun of it. And there's part of that, but hey, we gotta pay the bills. And so if I can find a way to add more money to my revenue and my income by using pay to plays, now that it's been explained and taught on how to actually go get that money on pay to plays, I'm not going to leave that money there. So that phrase means leaving money on the table when you could just as easily just go get it. So I'm not going to leave that pay to play money on the table for someone else to grab. I'm going to go grab it. Lynette says, happy Friday. I loved the pay to play event. So useful. 100%. There was so much on that that I just blew my head off, because I was doing it I was when I was on pay to plays way back years and years ago, I got some work, and I got more than what I paid for, to sign up, but just barely. And so now that I know what to do and what not to do from what she taught, it's, sky's the limit. I'm gonna go after it and get it all. Brian says, "Thanks, Mike. Great advice." Nicole says, "Hi from Ottawa, Ontario." Maria says, "Hello from Rhode Island. I'm a newbie and appreciate everyone's expertise and gracious sharing." That is a good point, Maria. I will say that the voiceover community is some of the most supportive and giving people out there. Um, sure, we're all competition for each other, but we're also kind of a family, and there are so many genres, kind of subsets of voiceover. Sure, there may be some competition there, but I've never seen a more supportive and helpful community. Uh, and so, yes, you're absolutely right. There's Patrice from Florida. Mike said, or I'm sorry, Robert says, "Mike, what's your approach to finding the right balance between over enunciating versus slurring? Don't want to versus don't wanna." Oh, that's such a good question. That's okay. And I could spend the whole day on this. We talked a while back about using words or using like contractions and things like that, um, do not versus don't, and, going to versus gonna, and would have versus would have, those kinds of things. It really is going to depend on the subject matter. For instance, if they're wanting you to sound natural and conversational, then it's okay to throw in things like coulda, shoulda, woulda, gonna, that kind of stuff. Same goes for not contractions, but what was the other thing that we talked about? Like the hard T's. Remember we talked about the hard T's instead of saying facilities, and really hard hitting that hard T with facilities to just say facilities, and kind of soften that up. Like I said, it really is going to depend on the subject matter. If you're doing something that's more formal or maybe something that's technical or medical, then you want to back off of that a little bit. You don't want to sound robotic, but if you're trying to be more natural and stuff, that's when you can sprinkle in some of those, I want to go to this and, that kind of thing. So base it on the context. And after a while, you'll start to get it. You'll start to, it'll start to be pretty obvious based on the script. Jim says pro demos gives you something that you may or may not be able to do on your own. That's why I don't do them. What? What? Okay, we got to unpack that. Um, I don't know why you would not be able to do it on your own. I mean, that just sorry, that kind of threw me for a loop, man. I don't know why you wouldn't be able to do it. If you've had the proper training and the demo has been produced by someone who is professional at doing demos, you should be able to replicate that every day. And that pro demo is the only calling card you have. So that's why you need to prep for the demo. Number one, you need to be demo ready before you record your demo. But once you've recorded your demo, that is what you send out to people. And that is how they know what you can do. Now, you may say that because you go down to a different studio to record it, which is really not done much anymore. Now that we've got high speed internet, you can record in your own booth. Every demo that I've ever recorded, I recorded in my own space with direction from the producer, live direction. So that's how demos are done these days. So I Gosh, that's a new one on me. You should definitely be able to produce what you have on your demo if it's done right. Maybe explain that a little bit more, Jim, because that really does not jive with what I've always believed. So, um, there's Chris from Lakeville, Minnesota. Ethan, hello, fam from Toronto, Canada. Pop says, "Live and let die." When the dynamic part hits, fireballs with both sides of the stage light up and down from everywhere, including fireworks outside of the venue. I was in front of house. The heat was intense. Yeah, I've seen Paul once, but he did definitely play that, and he did have all the pyro and stuff. It was great. Becky says, "Happy Friday from Michigan. Looking forward to a week off, as I'll be on vacation next week. Got those out of studio emails sent weeks ago and am ready." Okay, that's a great point, Becky. Becky, she and I talked a while back about this. Whenever you're going to be out of the office, even if it's for a day, send an email out to all your clients and even your potential clients, really, if you want, letting them know that you're going to be out. That does two things. Number one, it'll show them that you're professional and you're looking out for any kind of misses that might happen because you're out. But it also is a great marketing touch. It's just a way to tap your clients on the shoulder to let them know that you're still working and that you're available. Maybe not during that week, but you're still doing voiceovers and you're ready when they are. So that's a really great tactic for marketing, is to send out of office emails. I've even known people who send out of office emails even when they're not going to be out of office, just to kind of have that touch. And the craziest thing always happens. As soon as I send an out of office email, I get flooded with work, because they're like, "Oh yeah, I got to get that to Mike to get that done, or whatever." So it kind of jogs their memory. So I always, if I've ever got a trip planned or something where I'm going to be gone, I send that email out at least a week ahead of time, sometimes longer or further ahead. And I always get just a big influx of work. And of course, when I go out or when I'm out of the office, I also get work during that time too. If you want a lot of work, leave. That's always the case. Wayne says, "Pro demo. If someone says, do it the way you did on that Ford demo, I can listen to my Ford demo again and duplicate it." Right. Exactly. I've had plenty of, I mean, it's countless times where the client or the potential client has said, "Do it like that on your demo," and they talk about one of the spots on my demo. By the way, here's a little quick tip on that. If you start getting a lot of people specifically talking about one spot on your demo, move that spot to the front, right? If that spot is resonating with people and you're continually hearing, "Do it like that one," and it's not the first take on your demo, reorder your demo and move it up front, because people have very short attention spans, and that's part of the magic and the art and science, really, of putting a demo together, which is why when you're working on a demo, it's good to have help from a demo producer so that you can figure out what the best order is. You always want your strongest stuff up front. And then you wanna mix it up, you don't wanna have 2 side by side that are similar, keep them guessing. So there's a lot of that goes into producing a demo. But yes, you can always go back to that demo and do it exactly like that one read. There you go. And just as an example, the demo that Bill did for me back in 2017, um, the 3rd spot in was a Chipotle read, and that's the one people kept calling out. So I just reworded it or reordered it, put the Chipotle up front, and just know that your demo isn't set in stone once it's done. You can always move things around, or if you don't know how to do that yourself, have the producer do that. There's Tim in Austin, Texas. What's your favorite song or songs from The Sword? Oh, man. Oh, man. You caught me off guard here. The first song I'll have to say probably the first song that I heard from them that kind of introduced me to them was off of I think it was off of the Gods of the Earth album, and it's called How Heavy This Axe. And, that's the one that kinda was like, "Who are these guys?" And started digging in a little deeper. So I'd say that one, Gods of the Earth. Okay, Jim is doing a little clarification here. I'm saying that the only audition you can market is the one you can make in your studio. Going to a studio might get you a sound you can't make in your space. Well, yeah, that's what I mentioned. These days, pro demos are rarely done in a studio other than your own. If you don't have a studio, sure, then you may need to go to another studio. But 99% of the demos that are produced these days are done using your microphone, your equipment, your space. So you should definitely be able to to reproduce that. My current demo was recorded in my current space, and so I should be able to copy that anytime I need to. Jason says, "What would be your suggestion for a great mic for efforts and a good boom arm to go with it?" I'm not sure what for efforts mean. I mean, a great mic. Um, as far as boom arms go, this one is what is this one? I believe. What is this one? As far as the boom arm, I think this is. Gosh, I can't remember which one this is. It used to have a logo on it, but anyway, I like this one because it's got a little channel that runs down the middle of it that holds the microphone cable, keeps it out of the way, so you don't have to like wrap it around or zip tie it or anything. Um, and of course, the microphone is really just going to depend, Jason, on what your what your budget is. I mean, I mentioned yesterday to someone that a good ballpark, beginner to intermediate range for a microphone is gonna be anywhere between 100 and 150 bucks, maybe 200. The microphone that I started with, which I still have, my wife actually uses it down in her office for her podcasts and stuff, is a, Audio-Technica AT-2035, and you can probably pick that up for about 150 bucks. Now I've had Neumann TLM 103s, I've got this Sennheiser 416. It's really gonna depend on the budget, really. But if you're in that kinda neighborhood of, let's just call it 200 bucks, the, um, the Rode NT1 is another good kind of solid microphone. Um, like I said, the AT-2035. I'm not a big time gearhead, so I don't know a whole bunch of the other brands out there and mics, but, yeah. Oh, effort. Okay, so Callie says efforts may be for video games and animation. Yeah, possibly. I don't know that there are specific microphones for specific um, genres. I mean, I guess there is. I know a lot of promo people use this 416. I guess because sometimes you have to really get loud. Um, but also the cool thing about a 416 and any directional microphone or any shotgun microphone is that it is a directional pattern, meaning that it's built to only pick up what's right in front of the microphone. And we've talked about this when we talked about mic proximity a few weeks ago. Um, this is a very forgiving microphone. So if your space is less than perfect, and I would say most people's are, because there's no such thing as a soundproof room unless you're in NASA or something. But um, it's a very forgiving microphone in that it doesn't pick up everything surrounding it. It just picks up what's directly in front of it. So that's what's different about a shotgun mic versus a condenser microphone. Oh, Becky says, "Bana has a podcast?" No, she's a guest on a lot of podcasts. Um, so yeah, she's quite often on podcasts, and she also does a lot of coaching, Zoom coaching and stuff. So instead of using that cheap little microphone on the computer, she has a professional mic and an interface, my hand-me-downs. Jim says, "So a good debate is what type of mic is good for VO, condenser, dynamic, shotgun?" I would say yes to all 3 of those. Once again, personal preference, whatever works for you. But all 3 of those are well, no, not dynamic, I take that back, not dynamic. A dynamic microphone is for singing. That's the traditional microphone that you see up on a stage that has just the round ball on it. That's not typically used for voiceover, but condenser and shotgun, absolutely. Becky says, "I would so listen if she had one." Yeah, she does a lot of little shorts. If you follow her on LinkedIn, Level 42 Consulting or Urbana Parker PhD on LinkedIn, and she does a lot of little shorts and little short videos and stuff on there for that. So you can always check that out. All right. What else do we have regarding questions? We're at the bottom of the hour, but if you guys still have any questions, I'm happy to help. Wayne says, replying to Jim, both my demos were recorded in my booth. Then I had a pro, then I had the pro Hathcote do what I couldn't do. What? Oh, slice it, dice it, and attach it together. Oh yeah, end to end with video. Yep, yep, that's right. So I always suggest, this is not a deal breaker, but I always suggest adding video to your demo. And the reason why is because humans are visual creatures. They retain so much more by watching and listening versus just listening. The example I give is, would you rather, watch a football game and listen to it or just listen to it? So if you can, and if you do have a pro demo, put video to it, and it's just going to make everything seem so much more legit. So yeah, that's what we did with his. Those are fun to do, by the way. I just did one yesterday for one of my coaching clients. We just finished his demo and put it in the right order and got all the snips and clips correct. And then I put video to it, and he's going to add it to his site soon. All right. Well, looks like I've gotten 10 emails in just the time we've been on here. So I need to jump on and do some work. All right. Once again, tonight at midnight, Amy's class is going away. So if you haven't yet, click the description below and check out the replay of that. And I will see you back here on Monday, where I have a very cool topic to talk about. And hope you have a great weekend. All right. I'll talk to you then. Break a lip.